detail about what that means. Thank you, Casey. And kind of wanting to go over the goal for today and what we will be covering. I also want to make sure, like I said, this will all be shared on our website, but if you would like for us to individually email you a copy of either the recording, a link to that, and or these slides, please also include your email address in your introduction in the chat. We will be doing a question and answer at the end. You can put your question in the chat at any time. We will try to kind of hold all of those answers until the end in case we get to it through the slides when people answer your question. If not, of course, we have time though that we will want to be responding. So please do as things come up, put them in the chat, or we can hold and we'll have that open time at the end. Thank you also for folks who are putting their information in the chat. I will also say we have a combination of folks probably who are currently funded and will be going through the year 2 or 3 just budget and outcome renewal process. Folks who will be needing to complete a full reapplication. So for people whose full contract term is expiring, and or people potentially who have never received funding or haven't for a long time and are hoping to become a funded partner of Verdant. We will cover all of those scenarios in today's kind of overview. And also we have a lot more materials on our website and within our grants portal. Very detailed, the kind of robust overviews for each of those scenarios as well. All right. Let's move into, so for our agenda for today, like I said, these introductions, we're going to go into some background on who Verdant is, and then talk through kind of our funding process for these multi-year awards, as well as our ongoing COVID-19 emergency funding, and then opening that for questions. Casey, can you move to the next slide? Thank you. So by way of introductions, you'll see on the right here, there are 5 pictures. These are our commissioners. Verdant has 5 elected health commissioners who are the board and kind of decision makers of our public hospital district. So you can see their photos and names here. We also have a staff who work to do the daily operations of the organization. I'm Zoe, as I introduced myself earlier. We have a superintendent named Lisa Edwards, who is away at a conference today, so won't be joining us. And we also have Maggie Konstansky, who is our grants manager and here today, waving in the corner. We also have, I see some additional Verdant team members here. We have a wonderful team. So I'll always say here, this is just our grant staff, but to view, we have a link to our full staff list of folks who are eager to support you if either it's using our facility or questions about programming or other services that Verdant provides. As again, this kind of background of who Verdant is. Verdant is the vision of Verdant Health Commission. So that is our doing business as. We are officially called Public Hospital District 2, South Snohomish County. And the vision is to be a sustaining public resource, improving the health and well-being of South Snohomish County, collaboratively and creatively working to meet the needs of our whole community. We are the program of Public Hospital District 2, and we are governed by a board of voter elected commissioners. So you saw those pictures in our previous slide. And our mission is to improve the health and well-being of our whole community. As just some really quick background, this was a fun video that our wonderful social media intern made at the beginning of the year, just to kind of highlight some of the work that Verdant has done. But I thought it was kind of a fun way to get to know more about Verdant outside of just grant making. So we're going to watch this brief video. Let's see. Casey, I can't hear sound.
Yeah, let me.
This is a good plug-in for our YouTube channel while we figure this piece out. We have a lot of stuff on our YouTube channel. You'll see some of it highlighted at the bottom. We have a lot of training videos about our grant management software, in addition to other events and study sessions we've done.
Nothing. Is that coming through? Oh.
Thank you, Casey. So this was a combination of lots of things that we do as the public hospital district. Was that? Are we maybe having some connectivity issues there? Internet.
Yeah.
All right, we can probably move to the next slide. It's just restarting. And this was as follow-up. This more information about this is on our website, the South County Walks program, which is a summer program to help people get out in the community, meet each other, exercise, see the greatness of South County. So there's more information. That was a very brief information about South County Walks. Thank you, Casey. And so moving into kind of the program funding. So again, goal of that was just to show really there's a lot of things that Verdant does in terms of providing space, or Verdant Wellness Center, teaching kitchen that is free for community partners to use, providing free cooking classes, nutrition education, leading things like Meet Me at the Park, South County Walks, all these other pieces, in addition to maintaining our public hospital district and providing grant funding. So back into our program funding history, as just some brief background of where we've come from. We started operating in 2011, and until 2019 really provided these one-time and multi-year grants that were reviewed monthly and as a response to special calls for proposals. In 2020, they added COVID-19 emergency grants to respond to the pandemic and kind of this increase in basic need resources. And in 2021, we moved to this quarterly process where we would be providing multi-year and one-time grants and contracts, both for multi-year and COVID-19 emergency funding. Important to know about Verdant, and perhaps one of the most unique things about us, is our service district. So because we are a public hospital district, we have a very specific regional kind of area that we serve. So what you'll see here is a map of that area. This orange line around this is our service district. And it is largely the same as the Edmonds School District, but you'll see it is Town of Woodway, City of Edmonds, City of Linwood, City of Mountlake Terrace, City of Briar, a tiny piece of the City of Bothell, which is not part of the Edmonds School District, and then this lighter greenish gray color, which is unincorporated Snohomish County. This is a much more detailed view of this map. These are on our website, so you can download these and click view, kind of scroll. What you'll see, that purple dashed line that is put on top of this, that is the Edmonds School District boundary. So what you can see there is that kind of portions of Bothell, like we mentioned, that is part of Verdant service area and not part of Edmonds School District. And then up in the far right, there is a tiny piece of that yellow, which means it's outside of Verdant's boundary, but that is in the Edmonds School District. So there's those weird little nuances, but all in all, when we say it's pretty safe if you are providing services in Edmonds School District to Edmonds School District's families, that is within Verdant's service area. Another way of looking at this is by zip code. So if you are a program that captures the demographics of your participants by zip code, these are the zip codes that fall within Verdant's service area. Again, you'll see here that there are some of these zip codes, 98012, for instance, of which we have just a very small amount of that zip code is in our service area. So we'd like to include this kind of map-based look at zip codes in addition to the list of zip codes as well. All right, so that's a little bit about where we provide services and the background of kind of how we've been providing funding the last nearly 12 years. That's wild. And again, the purpose of the grants is to support projects in South Snohomish County. So again, that would be how we are defining that boundary that we just covered that support Verdant's mission. We seek to support projects that address the priority areas that are identified by our commissioners. What you'll see here is that a listing of our priority areas. I will quickly go through these titles and then we'll get into a bit more detail in the next slides. We currently have these as the funding priorities of our commissioners, and that includes access to healthcare, behavioral health, childhood obesity, dental, food security, housing, other education and prevention, and supporting seniors. It's just a bit more context or clarification. We have some kind of defining vision statements here about what each of these would mean. So for access to healthcare, defined as residents can access good, safe healthcare in an appropriate healthcare setting. Behavioral health, meaning that they can access mental health and substance use services in accessible community-based settings. Childhood obesity, youth and families in our communities have access to education, services, and foods to support healthy lifestyles. Next slide. Dental care, so residents can access good, safe dental care in appropriate care setting. Food security, residents do not go hungry and they have access to nutritious foods to support their health needs. Housing, residents are housed in safe, affordable housing and are given opportunities to maintain cost-effective housing that allows them to allocate an appropriate portion of their income to needs, including food, medical care, and childcare. As an important caveat, Verdant does not currently fund the capital development of housing, but rather the services that support people to remain housed or gain housing. Other education and prevention, meaning residents can access supportive services addressing the social determinants of health broadly and or emerging needs, and then specifically supporting seniors. Older adults in the community are safely and respectively cared for in a healthy environment and with necessary social and medical supports. Moving into kind of just some of the nuts and bolts of funding eligibility and criteria. We do not have a minimum or maximum amount for our multi-year awards. I always like to provide context to that though by saying that the average award in Q1 of this year was approximately $99,000 for an annual award. Our commissioners prioritize direct program expenses. You'll see we do have some limitations on administrative or indirect costs. They may fund multiple programs in each priority area each quarter. So there is not a set number of awards by area that are being approved. All funds must be used to serve South Snohomish County residents. So again, when we say South Snohomish County, meaning those district map-based pieces. So the use of the funds is we are both a public hospital district, meaning a levy or tax collecting agency, as well as the owner of the hospital campus that we're currently leasing to Swedish Edmonds, is that we utilize all of those funds for the benefit of those folks who live in that defined area. That doesn't necessarily mean that all the entire scope of services provided has to occur within that strategic or service boundaries. Ideally, we aren't asking people to travel to access services, but the real qualifying criteria is that they live in the service district. No funds can be awarded for the benefit of an individual person, for political or religious uses, to retire debt, or strictly for general fundraising purposes. Again, this is as we are a public agency, we have some limitations on what we are able to utilize those public funds for. And also wanting to clarify, in this round, in this quarterly round, we do not have any capital funding available. So we, when Verdant has done capital improvement or capital grants, typically called the Building Healthy Communities Fund, that is a separate specified request for proposals. Looking at how proposals are evaluated, you'll see at the bottom here a link which is to the kind of entire scoring or evaluation process, but the evaluation is broken up into these kind of 4 buckets, so to speak. So opportunity and community need, desired outcome, implementation, and community impact, inclusive of diversity and inclusiveness and equity. All of those same criteria apply, other than the specific scoring form, to our emergency funds as well. So we have the same, has to be district residents, has to, cannot be for an individual person, political, just general fundraising, all of those same kind of general eligibility criteria. But differently than the multi-year applications we're talking about today in more detail, we also are on a rolling basis accepting applications for one-time kind of smaller awards that are specifically supporting organizations responding to COVID-19 in the community. So that is typically a short-term project or a pilot, and is anything that is a result of COVID. as we've gotten now 2 years into the pandemic, we realize it can be really hard to parse out what is or is not a result of the pandemic. So if you have an idea where you're wondering, is this something that could fit in here, always reach out and we are happy to talk through whether that might be a good fit for these COVID funds, a better fit for a multi-year award, or maybe a different opportunity. There's a link there at the bottom. You'll see lots of these links, and we'll again share all of these. These are on our website of where you can get more information about these specifics. This is an important change. So for some folks who are on the call who are going to be requesting their year 2 renewal kind of information, last year you submitted via paper or an attachment to an email. Starting the end of last year, all of these applications, so multi-year and COVID, are now submitted via our grant portal. It is called Flux, is the software we are using. And the kind of first step around utilizing that portal is to create a log on so that you are able to submit those applications. The goal of utilizing that software was really to just streamline the process and make things more efficient and manageable for our grantees, our funded partners, as well as staff. And we did land on our final software selection after utilizing a focus group of current funded partners as well as staff to determine what kind of best met the needs of everyone. So within that grant portal, and we'll go into a little bit more detail about what that looks like, we will be accepting these multi-year applications from July 11th. So that's a Monday starting at 9 a.m. through July 22nd, which is a Friday, until, that should say, till 5 p.m. on that slide. So that's need to correct that. So it is end of business day on Friday, July 22nd. Awarded contracts will be begin October 1st. So applications are due by July 22nd. You will hear following our September board meeting, and contracts would start October 1st. You'll see here another link of kind of access to additional information about how to set up an account, which we'll go over here in a second, how to kind of submit applications, and different supports for submitting these proposals. This is an example of kind of the type of video that you would be able to find on our YouTube channel. And this is also, this one not specifically, but once you log in and create an account in our grants portal, then you are able to access a lot of these videos directly, as well as written training guides through our resources. So Casey, I think we could play just like a quick snippet of this for you to get kind of a sense. And we have one of these for most major processes.
This is a video tutorial on signing up for your grantee portal account. So you're going to start at the Verdant Health Commission Grants Portal home screen. You'll see our logo in the top center. And you'll see on one side it says login now, and the other side has this welcome text. You're going to want to scroll down to the bottom of the welcome text and click this create an account now. You will click there and you will be met with some eligibility criteria. Please note that you must pass these eligibility requirements in order to be taken to the next step of inputting your organization information. So if the answers that you entered do not pass, so if you fail this eligibility requirement quiz, you will receive an error message and will not be able to move forward in Flux. The first question is that your program takes place within our service area. Your next question will be that you deliver services that improve the health and wellness of our community.
So we can probably pause here.
The next one.
Hopefully this will feel reminiscent of, these are those limiting factors we have as a public agency. So what we are hoping to build into the process, that anyone who is not providing services in our geographic area that are not health or wellness focused, that are not aligned with the priority areas, that would be used for a function that we are not able to support, and or that they are not eligible to receive funding from a public agency, that we would, this is kind of another step that would support people from kind of acknowledging, that we're not kind of eligible for this funding source. The goal is not to create barriers. So if you have questions on these where you're like, is this, which one do I click? Always reach out. That'll probably be the refrain that you hear most from today, is always reach out. And so this one, what you'll see is when you move forward, this is the first step by which you are creating a profile in our grant portal for your organization and also for yourself. and multiple people can create profiles attached to the same organization. And so what you may find is to say, well, I'm the grants person, but we know the CEO is going to need to sign. So multiple people can request accounts in Flux going through this process. And we are able to connect all of those people to the same organization on our end. And then everyone can see the same thing once they log into the portal. Casey, do you want to move to the next slide? We always like to tell people
is that your services increase access to our priority area.
Thank you. With the requesting an account, that is the process by which we have to make that connection on our end. So we are kind of reviewing and creating the organization person connection. So don't make your account on like July 22nd at 4 p.m. because it is not an automatic processing. We do have to go in and connect that. So we like to tell people, make sure you're doing, giving at least 2 days to get everything all set up on the back end. So that would be the perfect thing to do now. If you haven't already created an account before we start accepting proposals next week. And if you run into any issues, again, please reach out. Similarly, for folks who have previously submitted the paper version or what was done via like Word and Excel attachments, you'll find that the context and content is pretty similar. It's just now in an electronic format. So what you'll see is that there are still 6 application sections, and some just tips on utilizing our portal is that this blue text at the top that's at the table of contents, you can click on all of these and it will take you to that section of the application. So that's just one way to navigate. Each section must be filled out completely in order to submit. You'll particularly see there's some red star asterisks next to some of the questions, and that is very, very much like you have to answer this question in order to be able to hit submit at the end. We also provide, so you'll have the program details with the narrative portion. Those narrative questions are available as a Word document on our website. So for people who may want to draft them outside of the portal, start outside of a grant time, whatever works for folks, you can utilize that. Also, you can start drafts in the system prior to that submission time period. So you can go in and start working on your proposal. That is all there now. It's just that is the period where we can accept submissions of proposals. Could you move to the next slide? Thank you. We also, as you'll see in the within the portal, there's some required documents. And so these are things that you upload within the portal. The first is the list of organizations board of directors. You can upload that when you make your organizational profile. And by doing so, you then won't have to re-upload that as part of your application. We just ask that people, if there are significant changes that they want to update, that you could then upload a more recent version. We do require current financial statements. We have a lot of information on our website, and we'll talk through briefly on what that means, right? And that is really determined by the size of your organization. So we follow basically Washington state law, determining for whom we request an audit versus other kind of financial materials, and which types of financial materials that we accept in the absence of an audit. We have a wonderful director of finance, who I think is actually also on the call, Rini Simpson, and she's also a fantastic asset. If you're kind of wondering, is this acceptable? What does this mean? Can I share this? Is an absolute asset for you to connect with as part of the process to make sure that everyone's getting what they need. Let's see, we also, actually, if you can go back, Casey, stay on that piece. You'll see letters of support if indicated. So this is one where we always welcome letters of support if people want to provide them. We do require them in the instances that your proposed scope of work is dependent upon another organization's facility or staff. So if you are proposing, and I'm making this up, if you are saying, I'm going to operate an after-school program and it's going to be located in Verdant Center for Wellness, and their receptionist is going to have to check people in, we would say, well, you have to provide a letter of support from Verdant saying, like, yep, we know that's what the application is. We want to provide them with the space, and we know that we would be providing the receptionist. We're just trying to avoid that sense of we fund a program and then turns out that they aren't able to operationalize it or implement it because of issues that are outside of their control, right? Facilities or otherwise. So if you click yes to that question within the proposal of yes, my scope of work is kind of dependent upon that, you will see letters of support pop up at the bottom as a required document. You are always welcome to upload it optionally if there's just, you think it's cool and you want to share it. Similarly, you're able to upload other attachments that are not required, such as an annual report or other things that you just think are important context. So you do have that option. So here's for folks on the call who will they're just finishing the first year of their multi-year award, so are just needing to do the year 2 or 3 budget and outcomes. So most of the information has been from your original application, has been pulled into Flux and is already there. A lot of the initial fields will remain locked from the narrative pieces, and all for the year 2 and 3 renewals that you are doing is updating outcomes and budgets, reattaching any updated or more current financial documents, and re-acknowledging the statements around your ability to track, monitor, expense the funds appropriately. Many people just submit the same outcomes and budget for year 2 and 3 as they did for year 1, and that's fantastic. We do have some limitations on the amount of increases that can occur just because of needing to have kind of clarity and ability to respond to needs. So it is not meant that a year 2 or 3 request would be significantly increasing the cost or the scope of programming. Just as a heads up, and you are always welcome to reach out to say, hey, this is what we are thinking. Does that kind of fit? This is going to be some screenshots of just what this looks like within our portal. Again, this is things that were previously done via Excel. This would be the outcomes section. So again, you can navigate by clicking on the outcomes text at the top under table of contents. It will bring you right here. You add these outcomes by clicking the blue plus sign. That's thank you, Casey. When you click that, you are able to type in the title of the metric basically, and then punch in the number that you want associated with that. So this would be, for instance, typing in number of individuals served and then 200. You click save, and then it's here. And then you can keep kind of adding those as you go. You'll see at the very bottom with a red asterisk, I have added the number of individuals served as an outcome metric. We do require everyone to include that as a metric and encourage people, as you'll see under that instructions, that there's no minimum or maximum, but we encourage folks to add an additional 2. And really that's just for us to best understand, demonstrate, and celebrate the impact of the work you're doing. So whatever you think is a really meaningful demonstration of the impact of the scope of work that you're proposing, we really like to have that reflected. It helps us understand and tell the story. Similarly for the budget, this is again like the Excel, but now in a different form, where you will be clicking the plus sign next to, you'll see kind of the spreadsheet symbol. That pops up, and what you're able to do is you're going to see a budget and an actual field. The actual field will be locked and grayed out. That is only live if your proposal is funded. It is used as part of reporting. So you are just going to be putting in the information into the budget fields. This is just for your Verdant request. So this is a little bit of a confusing piece where you are just putting in here the numbers for that year of budget that you're requesting from Verdant. And then you can provide additional context around that number in the narrative boxes underneath. Importantly, and you'll see this in the text box at the top, as part of the first part of the application, we do ask what is the kind of total program budget for the entire program. So not specifically to Verdant funds, but to say if you were funding that made up after school program I was talking about, what is that entire budget for that made up after school program? And then separately, what are you requesting from Verdant? The reason why we ask that is our commissioners do like to see kind of a sense of like what portion or percent of the budget would be supported by Verdant funds. The goal for this budget, however, this grantee budget that you're uploading, is that it matches that amount requested from Verdant for year 1 field, not the total program cost budget. Here we're going to talk a little bit more about kind of the guidelines and limitations of funding and just some definitions. So this is when we talk about administrative expenses. Talking through those are expenses that are not specifically allocated to the funded scope of work or the function of the funded program. Expenses that are allocated to support like multiple programs or locations. Another way of thinking of it is they're expenses that would occur regardless of whether the program that is requested funding for is funded or not. And Verdant generally limits these expenses to 10% or less of the total grant request or contract. Direct expenses, so that budget category, these are expenses that are allocated to a specific program, like the program staff salaries, the program materials, and these are expenses that would not exist if except for the existence of that program. So these are really the core costs of the scope of work being proposed. Minor capital expenses. So these are expenses incurred as a result of the purchase of capital items or materials that cost less than $5,000 and or have a useful life that is equal to or less than the term of the grant agreement. And these are eligible to be funded by Verdant as a part of a grant request in this quarterly process. Major capital expenses, so expenses that are incurred as a result of a purchase. These are costs that are either more than $5,000 and or have a useful life that is equal to or more than the term of the grant agreement. So this would be like, we can't fund building a building or purchasing kind of significant costs. And so this we will say as part of these quarterly pieces, we generally do not fund major capital items as a part of a grant request. And that you'll see we occasionally do offer capital specific funding opportunities. Here's where we get to what type of financial documentation are we requiring? So we do request applicants provide this financial information with their applications and to update this annually. So here's where you'll see that we do request a financial audit performed by an independent firm for those with annual operating expenses greater than $3 million. And that is in alignment with the Washington state guidelines. Whereas those who have operating annual expenses of less than $3 million must annually provide a cost report or internally prepared financial statements. And again, we have a wonderful director of finance who is available to support in the preparation or submission of those materials. We've referenced a few times that we have a lot of kind of these resources, both video as well as PDF or printed, depending on how you best take in information. And again, you can always schedule time with us too to screen share, walk through things together. We have a YouTube playlist, so that link is here. You can also just search for Verdant Health Commission YouTube, and you'll see Flux training guides or training videos as a series of videos. So those videos include things like this multi-year application guide. How do you submit a report? How are you tracking payments? How do you request a renewal? We have kind of each portion of utilizing that portal would be covered in a video. We'll also see that full list of resource PDF guides are available on our website, a section of them, and then really importantly via the resources tab of the portal. Once you've logged in and you have a profile, you can navigate to resources and you'll see direct links to a series of these video and PDF resources. Here's where I do my last pass before I'm like, all right, more information before we try to open it up to figure out what have we not covered. And it's always great. I love getting good questions. So question being, do programs, projects need to serve a specific population? We're saying is the only requirement is that they must serve the residents of our specified district boundaries. So again, referencing those maps. Who is eligible to submit an application? Again, these are nonprofit, for-profit, and government organizations whose program matches our guidelines and eligibility criteria. So again, that would be not for an individual, for political or religious use, general fundraising. If my program or project is currently supported by Verdant and set to expire, can I, oops, that was Casey, I was like, what is my computer saying? That's, can I renew using this process? And we're saying, yes, you can apply for renewal in the same application window, which occurs before your current contract expiration date. Again, you do not need to start the whole new application process. There is just the budget and outcome renewal process. Can I submit multiple applications? Yes. Question of what has changed with the application process to reflect equity, diversity, and inclusion. The narrative application requests a description of how the program or project demonstrates equity, diversity, and inclusion, and is part of the scoring. And really the goal there is to identify how is the community that is defined as being served by this program involved in determining that this was a service that they felt would be beneficial, that would respond to their needs. So both how are folks involved in program design, but also in delivery? How are they kind of continuously engaged in determining if it is meeting the need that they have identified? We also ask a question about how program organizational staff reflect the population that is deemed to be being served by that work, around kind of that representation and inclusion piece. Again, here, do I need to fill out an entirely new application for just the year 2 or 3? And no, you only need to update the outcome, budget, financial statement, and acknowledgement portions if you are not proposing significant changes to project scope. So again, if you're thinking like, I want to do something much bigger or much different, reach out to us prior to doing a year 2 renewal, and we can talk through that. All of this has been manually pulled into Flux from your initial proposal, so you will see it there. And so you will just be needing to update those key pieces. Just a timeline, just to make sure of like kind of what happens, right? So here we started today. So here, June 27th, this is this Q&A session. July 11th to 22nd, applications are accepted. In the months of August or September, our commissioners on program committee, which is the committee of our board that scores and reviews all proposals, will have scheduled kind of 30-minute and just meet and greets with any applicants who have never received any funding from Verdant before. The goal of that is just to understand kind of the context and community behind that application, for them to better understand kind of the organizations applying and build that relationship. In September, we have our program committee review. And then we also have in September 29th, our full board review, which is where final decisions are made, and then communication to all applicants, which is following that October 1st, contracts would be able to start. And then you'll see there later in October, the next application window would begin. And that would be for application or for contracts starting January 1st of 2023. So this is our application deadline. We have Friday, July 22nd at 5 p.m. You'll see this is Maggie and I actually, this is hilarious, in front of the map of our service area. And this is our contact information here, our direct emails and phone numbers. And again, you'll probably hear, for the 400th time, like, just reach out. We really relish in meeting with people and kind of working with folks. It helps us, right, to have that conversation in context when we receive the final version of the application, and also we hope it helps you understand how to best use your time and resources in creating these proposals. Now I think if we move, yeah, we got there. All right. So now just making sure, like, what questions did we not answer, and or what great questions do you have? And you can do that either by putting a question in the chat. I'm just looking in here. It doesn't look like we've gotten any, or raising your hand or unmuting and asking. Great question. So ideally, Rod asked if the ED has been added as the kind of authorized signer, does she need a Flux account? If they are listed as the authorized signer and their contact information is included, that is the field that will get pulled into the contract for DocuSign, which is what we utilize for the electronic processing of our contracts. So as long as they are included with their contact information, their email address being the key piece, we are able to pull them into that process. Ideally, they would have their own account. That makes it pretty seamless. And again, that could just be adding their name and email address, right? They aren't having to re-add all of the organizational information. We can help with those pieces as well if there's any issues.
Hey Zoe, one more
Hey.
question.
Yeah.
So because I have hours at Verdant, do do I need to ask Verdant to send me a
No.
report? Okay, good. I kind of thought, but
Question.
okay.
So yeah, and that probably was extra confusing with the example I gave. We do operate, so our community wellness center, and this is on our website. We are a space for the community to utilize and service partners to utilize. And we do have a lot of our funded and non-funded partners who regularly use space in the facility to meet with clients, to have a administrative space. And so that is, we are always happy to be able to provide that. And that process is Casey, who's helping run the show today. Our wonderful office manager also helps manage that process. And so you can always reach out to us about that, separate from these funding pieces. I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. Any more questions from the group?
Can you remind us when the info session is for new applicants?
So that would be, and that we would work between commissioners and the applicants. It will be either in the months of August or September. So we try to be really flexible to match availability of commissioners and the applicant for folks. And that we define that as someone who's never received any type of funding from Verdant before.
Got it. Okay.
Right. For folks who will be requesting year 2 or 3, that is currently loaded in the system. So everybody's information is in there. You should be able to see that now. Again, that's separate process. You don't have to go through the apply for funding. It is in the request to edit update. We sent out that specific PDF guide, and I can do that again for anyone. The goal is that it is really straightforward, and you've never used the system before, so it probably won't feel as straightforward as it will in the future, because we translated your materials for you into the grant portal. So please reach out at any point, right? We hope moving forward, this will just become more natural as folks are doing more of their reporting and all of that within the system, but we know it's new. So reach out at any time if you're like, what am I supposed to be doing? And we are here to help. Okay. Well, wonderful. So again, we will get the slides and recording up on our website. If you put your email into the chat, we'll send it to you directly. We have a lot of resources on the website, on the YouTube, embedded within the grant portal, and we are always here to support. So reach out at any time. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.